Movies with Ron.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Movies with Ron.
So it pissed Candy off.
How'd you do that?
She got on the Facebook, said, Hayao Miyazaki and Stephen King are geniuses. My response was, I never said they weren't geniuses.
Yeah.
You helped me with that Stephen King shit.
I know.
For good reason.
On a whole, like if you just look back and you say, was it a good story? Yes, it was an amazing story. It really was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I only know that because somebody else paraphrased it for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I gotta say, once I dug in, half of it's boring, half of it's not, you know?
Yeah.
Hayao Miyazaki's movies, great movies. But I mean, you know, the issue there was he's retiring. Go away.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, Candy.
And happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Candy!
You're listening to Movies with Ron, the podcast where my older brother surprises me with a movie he saw because I don't go see him anymore, and he explains the whole thing to me from beginning to end. If you're listening right now, trust me, you'll like his versions better. It's okay if you've seen the movie. It's okay if you haven't seen it. The experience is unique, so just trust me. We have a new review.
We do.
All right.
Titled, Pretty Good. I'm not going to complain. By Motion City Soundtrack Lover.
All right.
And they say, I found this by looking for podcasts on the new Resident Evil movie.
Oh. There you go.
The ep was a good time as it was a great bad movie. Other eps are swell as well. Thank you so much, Motion City Soundtrack Lover.
Hell yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, you are swell as well.
Okay. Lou Ferrigno is in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And he's labeled in the cast list as Hulk.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I guess there's like a planet of Hulks, and he's one of them. I mean, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is in it, too.
Yeah, well, we knew that from the...
Cut his hair short. Thor did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guess who else is in it? David. You need to be by my David.
I saved a picture of him because I knew you were going to say something. Look at this shit.
I know, man. He looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. I'll post this on the social media. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @MoviesWithRon. Check us out. Leave a rating, review. Just like Motion City Soundtrack Lover, I'll read it on the air.
Good old Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Old faithful.
Think he's going to try and like do a voice?
I hope not.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I hope so.
You know, I kind of do hope so, because he only ever plays himself, but I love himself.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum is like a family member, you know?
He's kind of like, no matter who he plays, he's an uncle who everyone likes, who if you're out in public, he can like go up to a piano, sit down, and start playing.
Yeah.
And then like everyone's going to have a good time.
Yep. Ding.
Yeah. All right. Why isn't there a Pixar film about ducks? Come on. I mean, look at a duck. Pleasant creature, all right? So much personality. A duck is flying, and he's like, I think I'm going to walk on the ground a little bit. And he walks on the ground.
Yeah.
And then the duck is like, I think I'm going to go for a swim.
Yeah.
And he swims.
Not only
There's
does
so
he
much-
swim, but he can like dive.
Yeah, so much room for adventure. Why isn't there like a family-friendly computer CGI movie about like a team of ducks? I don't know. The Mallard. You know, like...
The Lost Mallard.
They have such funny feet. Fucking ducks, man. There's potential there.
There is. I agree.
Yes.
Everyone's doing extended universes. You could do like our duck movie with Watership Down rabbits. Come on. Come on.
Watership Down. Depression.
They're making that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, get ready. You know what they need to remake? Night of the Lepus.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, man. Giant killer rabbits.
I know. I think I have fleeting memories of me watching that when I was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
Ugh, I was frightened.
It was probably me showing it to you.
All right, give me some bad guys from horror movies. I want to justify them.
Hannibal Lecter.
Dude, The Silence of the Lambs. The whole title of that story is why he's justified. The trauma he experienced when he was a boy. Come on. And he ain't the villain of Silence of the Lambs.
All right, fair enough.
Buffalo Bill?
All right, Buffalo Bill.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me. Are you about a size 14?
Buffalo Bill.
Would you?
Buffalo Bill's style is cramped by a world that won't accept his isn't he going through a gender confusion? He hasn't found himself. But he's existing in that older USA that still puts him in a cage, you know?
Yeah.
So, see, he's mentally, like, forced into that hole, or to go through that door of murder and torture and, like, putting people down wells. I mean, come on. You know Buffalo Bill is capable of empathy and caring based on the little dog, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Precious?
you see there could be a solution there. Come on.
All right.
Buffalo Bill ain't so bad.
He just wants to be.
A big fat person. She was a big girl. Put the fucking lotion in a basket.
I asked on Facebook.
Yeah?
I got some suggestions.
Here we go.
The Sawyer family from Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, okay.
All right. He's not saying Leatherface. He's saying the whole family.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He's right.
Well, you see, the Sawyer family, they're just different. This one was suggested by Wesley, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, like I was saying, the Sawyer family, they're unhealthy. They're living out in the country. Not much exposure to other people. You know, they're gonna act weird.
Yeah.
You know, and dude,
They're just different.
you can't judge Leatherface for wanting to wear leather on his face. You know, you can't judge him for like revving a chainsaw around because he does not hurt one person with a chainsaw in that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's no massacre. All right.
Except himself.
Yeah. So yeah, they are the villains, but they're not that villainous.
Who is?
The
The kids.
yeah.
Coming into my backyard.
That just reminds me of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. You
Yeah.
ever seen that? They did that good.
Yeah.
All right, the next one by Jeremy Cole. This is an easy one. Samara from The Ring. Come on. Wasn't she trapped in a well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Wasn't she like...
evil videotape. You got to pass it around after you see it so that you don't get the curse. But it's all about, like, you could figure it all out. The first guy who got that videotape, someone made the videotape and it's cursed. The first guy who got it could have unlocked that mystery
Yeah.
and just done away with that legacy of the haunted videotape. I mean, what Naomi Watts did, you know, she figured it out, didn't she?
Well, no, because there's sequels.
We're talking about The Ring. She found the well. She popped the lid off, and voila, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, she found her.
You know, Samara was like killed. You know, unsolved mystery.
Yeah, what's like
you
her
can
parents or
always
something?
you can always justify a ghost like that. All right, the next one. All right, this is hard. I don't know. Henry in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Although in my
He's just different.
in my defense, I don't know if that's a horror movie. It's kind of like an exploitation docu-style thing.
Is it?
And he is kind of the main character.
I
He
see.
is the hero and the bad guy, I guess. He's fighting himself. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that justify him killing other people? Although, I will point out, he's one of those serial killers that made a friend. You know?
Yeah.
That is another killer. That guy Otis, who was in the movie, it was because it's based on a true story, but in the movie it was Captain Spaulding, that actor who played Otis in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and they're friends. They all they have is each other.
Yeah.
And, that kind of explains it, I think. I mean,
would tend to agree.
he needed someone to bond with, to share, to be vulnerable with.
Yes.
And it just had to be taken to a severe extent. Next one. Stuntman Mike from Death Proof.
All right. Stuntman Mike.
Uh-huh.
Just an old fat guy sitting in a bar trying to eat some nachos. Okay? They look like great nachos, too.
Yeah.
And he was enjoying them well. Getting fucked with by those girls.
Was he getting fucked with?
I think he was trying to fuck with them first. I think he might have been like trying to pitch a little woo.
Yeah.
But then they like fucking embarrassed the shit out of him and like drove his feelings into the fucking ground.
Like at that bar?
I think so.
Yeah. I don't remember much about it.
Me neither, because I only watched it the one time, and I never will again. But, yeah, fuck it. Teaching him a lesson.
Yeah. Stuntman Mike is not the villain of that movie. The villain is CGI. That's what that whole movie is. He used to be a Hollywood stuntman, and he has been reduced to like satisfying weird psychosexual urges and killing women in his stunt car because CGI took all his work.
Wow, Chris.
Yeah, that's what that movie means. That was what Quentin Tarantino was saying with that story. But Quentin Tarantino was also saying, like, you got to embrace new technology. You can't go backwards. You got to embrace the change and adapt. That's why the women end up winning at the end.
Yeah.
They represent the digital age. I don't know,
Yeah.
But,
Sounds good.
if you got any more, come on, Twitter, Facebook, do it.
Hey, I got another one.
Okay.
I got two, actually. I'm going to do a little cheerleading for Stephen King here. For Candy.
All right.
Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
My justification for Pennywise is the same as Pinhead. They're just gatekeepers, They're at work. They're clocked in. All right? I don't know anything about Pennywise.
Pennywise is a giant spider that eats kids.
He's a clown.
He's not really a clown, though.
The clown is like, come down here.
Yeah.
He's like, come on through, He's not, is he the boss? Is he the boss of the evilness? Isn't he like...
It's not really quite clear, but he thinks he is.
Oh.
He just wakes up like every 28 years or whatever and then feeds. And goes back to sleep.
I mean, if it's a spider, if he's really a spider, because they do that in the cave, they go in a cave at the end, same justification as Jaws. Come on, you got to take care of a giant spider. Get him out. Is he okay? You can't kill a spider that big. It's significant. It means something. Maybe he's misinformed,
Yeah.
He obviously has psychic powers. He can like conjure a clown somewhere and haunt children.
Maybe he could use those powers for some sort of good.
Yeah, there you go. Here you go.
If people would just feed him more kids. He talks about why he's so scary, why he likes to scare the kids. And it's his version of salting the meat. Yeah, the fear.
Gets them all loose. You also mentioned
Whoa.
you also mentioned he's childlike.
Yeah.
So that's another element there.
Yeah, but he's also like millennia old. Like he's what killed the dinosaurs, we think.
Okay.
The real villain in that story is the dinosaurs. All right, my second one. I think I got a good one that is going to stump your ass.
All right.
He Who Walks Behind the Rose from Children of the Corn.
I have never seen that movie.
Go home, Chris.
I will. I guess I'll have to watch it now.
Does that mean I win? I won.
Yeah, sure. Until next week.
I won.
I'm going to watch it.
Okay.
All right.
Challenge accepted.
To be continued. Hey, let me recommend a movie for people.
All right.
From 2004. It's called Primer.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, man, but good Lord.
It's the kind of movie where when you finish it, you're like, ugh!
I know.
Like, you don't know what to think. And this movie, it's like a time travel movie, but it's micro budget. And they did it really carefully.
Mm-hmm.
And man, after you finish this, you guys will be going on Wikipedia, looking up the timelines.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
You will watch this movie at least like 4 times.
It's hard to summarize for you, but that's part of its charm. You know, it's about these, think about the early days of Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. They're in their garages. You know, they're messing with microchips.
Yeah.
And shit. It's about a group of guys like that. And they're trying to start something on their own in their free time because they're corporate slaves. They end up inventing a time machine.
Yeah,
but
accidentally.
it's not the kind of time machine you're thinking of.
Right.
It's a little more realistic, a little more micro budget, and that's what makes it so fucking great.
Yeah.
And they end up having to set the time machine up in a room, right? And you have to be in the room for the same length of time that you want to travel back to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking weird. Rick, you got to watch this movie. It's directed by Shane Carruth. He did Primer, then he did Upstream Color.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good artistic, kind of Kubrickian guy. But yeah.
He's well loved by a lot of people.
Check out Primer from 2004. All right, Kong, Skull Island.
Damn right.
Did you like it?
Loved it.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
It's good.
It seems like a lot of running from medium-sized lizards.
There is some running from medium-sized lizards.
Oh, okay.
But there is a whole shit ton of other shit thrown in there. And talking with Heather afterwards, look at the differences between this Kong and then Peter Jackson's King Kong. Certain sacrifices were made, like in Peter Jackson's, we all fell in love with Kong and we were all on his side. He had so much character, right? Remember?
Totally.
But all of the humans, you know, they were all played by actors that we like. Oh, yeah, I like him. Yeah, he's cool. He's cool. He's cool.
Yeah.
Did anyone really give a shit about any of those people in that movie? No. Now, in this movie, it's like a polar opposite. The character of Kong is not nearly as much built up as in Peter Jackson's, but all of the human characters, you are right there with them the whole time, and you love every single one of them.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was great. It was good. It was a good adventure to go on with them. You know, and in the movie, Kong is just like, he's just there. He's just part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm worried about John C. Reilly.
Don't be.
Because I was like, watching the preview, I was like, you know, it needs a good, strong humor. And he's capable of that. But then I think, like, he's just going to act like he is in Step Brothers and Talladega Nights. And
You want to tell me what's wrong with that?
I mean, just like...
If you're about to shit talk John C. Reilly's playing of John C. Reilly, which is all he ever does, we're going to fight.
All right.
Because I love him.
All right. I'll back off.
That is what he does. And it works perfectly, as it always does.
Anything happen in the theater?
Just at the end, while we were waiting for the stinger, because I looked it up on mediastinger.com.
Yeah.
And I knew there was one coming. So we're sitting there waiting for it. We ended up seeing it in 3D because we had to, because of the, when we wanted to record this. So we're waiting for the credits to be over, and all of the theater employees start coming in and cleaning. And I was like, God, don't they know?
You guys are the last one in there?
No, there was other people there too.
All right.
And then just as the credits were ending and it was about to start, all of the workers kind of chilled out, step back. But then all these assholes up behind us they started talking they couldn't just sit still anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It was fine though. So, whatever. All right, Kong, Skull Island on Movies with Ron. So we got a bunch of logos, but they're traveling through the sky, through the clouds with us.
Oh.
And as this is happening, we can hear a firefight happening. And, some sort of plane fight. Airplanes. Then you hear a big explosion. Like one of them got hit. And then we just see this one guy, like falling out of the sky. Okay. Oh, and it's somewhere in the South Pacific in 1944. So this dude falls out of the sky. All right, so then, it's on the beach or whatever, and his plane crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he falls down on a parachute real soft. And he's okay. He's a young guy. He's the pilot. And then he looks over and sees the Japanese plane crashing. And then that guy parachutes down. So he's like, oh, shit. Because that's the guy he was just fighting.
Yeah.
So he runs over to his plane and, he pulls his gun out. And then he just starts shooting at the other pilot. And then he runs out of bullets before he hits him.
Yeah.
And the Japanese pilot's like, ha-ha. And he starts shooting at him. And then he runs out of bullets. So they're both just kind of standing there. Then the Japanese guy just pulls out his katana and starts running after him. Okay, so the American he's just fucking running. And they run through some jungle and stuff. And then the American, hits the edge of a cliff. Oh, shit. He's about to fall off. So he stops. Mm-hmm. Then he turns around. And the Japanese pilot is like, ha, gotcha now. So he's got his sword out. And he's coming up, raises his sword. He's about to kill him. And then, whoo, a big old gorilla hand comes up and grabs onto the cliff on one side. And then another one comes up and grabs on the other side. And then his head comes up into view. But we don't see a big full view of him. We're just seeing it from their perspective. Whoa, there's a big lip and a tooth. And then we just see Kong's eye. And then the camera goes into the eye. And then the opening credits start.
All right.
It looks like fire because he's got orange eyes. And then it goes Kong, Skull Island.
Yeah. Can I say something? The dude crashing and then the other dude crashing? That'd be a good movie.
Yeah.
That
was a whole
could be
movie,
a movie
unto itself. Yeah.
It could be a setup for something. I don't know. An enemy mine kind of thing.
Uh-huh. More than you know, because they ended up being best friends. So during the opening credits, we just see a whole bunch of news footage. It's World War II. And it's just showing the passage of time, because that was World War II. And it brings us up into present day, which is the end of the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got John Goodman and Corey Hawkins. All right, they work together. They work for a company called Monarch. And they're going into, I don't know, the Pentagon or something, and they're going to talk to this senator who was played by the other guy who was working the console in Cabin in the Woods that we like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Jenkins. I love that guy.
He loved you. So apparently they've been bothering him for a meeting over and over, and they tried to cancel it, the senator and his secretary, but he showed up anyway. So he's like, oh, you, okay, yeah, great. What do you want this time, man? And he's like, I want to go to this island. It's a completely uncharted island. Look at this. And he shows a picture of it, and it looks like a skull. So he's like, Skull Island. Because during the opening credits, they were like, now we have satellites in the sky, and we can see down onto the planet. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the brand new technology.
Yeah.
And he's like, the war is over tomorrow. And the Russians have satellites, and their satellite's going to be passing over in 2 or 3 days. So we need to get over there. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't know, man. I don't think so. And then the kid, Corey Hawkins, gives a speech saying pretty much what I just said. Let's beat the Russians. And the guy's like, okay, you know what? That makes sense. I don't remember. Because if it's a brand new place and there's new resources there,
yeah,
America will want it first.
Okay.
So they're sending this survey team out called Landsat, and he's like, I can just piggyback with them. It's cool. And he's like, yeah, okay, you can do that. All right, that's it, though. Okay, no more favors for you. I'm tired of you, and I don't ever want to deal with you anymore. And he's walking away, and John Goodman's like, Senator, one last favor. He's like, yeah, I'm going to need a military escort. He's like, So then it cuts to Vietnam, and there's this chopper hangar, okay? And all the members of that squad are in there, and all the 70s rock is playing, and they're all hanging out, having a good time. Like all the fun parts from Forrest Gump. And then Samuel L. Jackson is in his office, and he's like their colonel. And he's like, the war is ending, so he's pissed off because he has nothing else. And this guy named Chapman, one of his underlings, comes in, and he's like, yeah, you want to do, I'm doing this, doing that, because they're like shutting down their operation to go home. And Samuel Jackson is like, Chapman, what are you doing after you get home? He's like, oh, I got a family and stuff. It's fine. Well, how about you, sir? And he's not even listening because he's looking into his like cigar box full of his medals. And you can hear him just go, all of this for what? So then he gets a phone call from the Pentagon saying like, hey, we need to send you on one last job. And he's like, yeah. They're about to get off the phone, him and the commander. And he's like, well, Commander, thank you. So then it cuts to Saigon. And John Goodman and Corey Hawkins, they're there to hire a tracker.
Uh-huh.
And they're going to find the best in the business, and that is Loki.
All right.
All right? So they go into this shithole bar, and it's like all drugged out, and everybody's drunk, and there's prostitutes everywhere, and they see this guy playing pool. And he's like, I think that's him. And then this other guy walks up to him and like slams some money down or tries to take the money, and then Loki has to kick ass. And he's like breaking pool cues over people's heads, punching them in the face, just like takes care of business real quick. And then John Goodman's like, we want him. So they're sitting down talking, and Loki is like, you want to go to an uncharted island? He's got a great American accent. He's like, you know how dangerous that is? All the crap that you have to deal with, man, that's so dangerous, man. No, I'm not going for this amount of money. And I was like, well, I'll double it. He's like, no. I want 5 times that. And a bonus if we make it back. And then Corey Hawkins goes, if we make it back? And then Loki's like, hey, John Goodman, why do you need a tracker? What is it you're trying to track? Why do you even need me? And he's like, men go to war to search for something. And I'll tell you what, if you had found it, you wouldn't be here. So then it cuts to that blonde chick who's going to be playing Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Also going to be in Free Fire. I like her.
What's her name?
In the movie, her name is Mason. I don't know her real name.
What are you going to call her?
Mason?
Okay.
What do you want me to call her?
I don't know. Captain Marvel?
Okay.
Played by Brie Larson.
So Captain Marvel learns that she just landed the Landsat gig, so she's going to be the one taking the pictures for this geological survey. But she's like an award-winning war photographer. Mm-hmm. But she's like, I'm an anti-war photographer. But she's like been embedded with like, many GIs.
Yeah. So she's tough.
Yeah. So then in Bangkok, speaking of embedded with GIs, now they're all there and they're all catching the boat to go to Skull Island. She ends up meeting Samuel Jackson, who's like, oh yeah, you're the reason, people like you are the reason that we lost all the support back home. And she's like, really, you're gonna blame the people without the guns for you losing the war? And he's like, we didn't lose the war. We abandoned it. So they're all having their pre-mission meeting, like in Independence Day or Top Gun.
Yeah.
So we find out that this geological survey team is going to be dropping bombs on the island to, like, shake it and make it vibrate so they can read its fucking vibrations. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. And Loki's like, you're going to be dropping bombs. And he, like, quickly asserts himself as a leader in the room. Everybody's like, yeah, and then these army guys with Samuel L. Jackson, they're going to fly us in, and everything's going to be fine. But the island is surrounded by a perpetual storm. A magic storm that never goes away.
There you go.
Okay? So after that, Loki and Captain Marvel are each snooping around in the cargo hold because they want to get a look at all these bombs.
Yeah.
And they find them, and then they're talking. This is really just a chance for them to meet. The bombs really don't matter.
Yeah.
And he's like, why are you here? You're an anti-war photographer. And she's like, well, why are you here? You're British Special Forces. And he's like, I'm retired. I'm making a lot of money for this. So then we get a little montage of them on the journey there, and that is same thing as before. Rock music and all of the Vietnam soldiers cutting loose on the deck of the boat. Having barbecues, playing cards.
Yeah. A big team is going.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So then they show up and they are looking at the storm. The geologist guy is like, I don't want to do it. We're canceling the mission. John Goodman is like, no, we're doing it. Let's leave it up to Samuel L. Jackson. Are you telling me you guys can't fly through some, bad weather? And Samuel L. Jackson's just like, And then it cuts to them getting ready to go. Get some scenes of all the soldiers talking with each other. There's a whole bunch of that in this movie. Shea Wiggum plays Cole.
All right.
He's got a lot of funny, good scenes in this.
Yeah. If y'all are keeping up with the recommendations, Shea Wiggum was in Blood Creek.
Which I actually just watched the other night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Still love it. That one guy, Chapman, was like, they caught him writing a letter to his son. And they were like, what does it say? And he's like, I don't know. It's to my son, dear Billy. I'm sorry I'm not home yet, and blah, blah, blah. And then everybody's like, oh, yeah, dear Billy, I suck. And stuff like that. It becomes like a leitmotif of the movie.
Yeah.
So they're firing up the choppers, and Samuel L. Jackson gets over the radio and he's like, all right, everybody, here we go. Now it's time for the show, blah, blah, blah. And as usual, hold on to your butts. Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, Jurassic Park thing.
Yeah.
All right.
So then they take off, and they are 12 choppers and then one Chinook. You know what a Chinook is?
Nope.
That's one of those big helicopters with 2 blades.
Oh, okay.
12 fucking helicopters. All right? Just remember that. Like a big fucking hive of bees. So they fly into the storm, and it is like hardcore hell on earth. Like, everybody thinks they're going to die. And they're like, dear Billy, you might want to hold on. And over the radio, Samuel L. Jackson is like, giving a speech about how tough they are. And he tells the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun. And he's like, but the U.S. Army never flies too close to the sun. Blah, blah, blah. Pennsylvania Steel. We're going to do it. And then all of a sudden they just like come out into perfect weather. And they're over the island. And it's like beautiful climate inside.
Okay.
They're flying through canyons. And yep, it's beautiful. Like they...
Wow.
So over the radio, they're playing like Black Sabbath and stuff. This movie had a great soundtrack. And there's all this cool footage of the choppers, looking all badass. So they land and they're starting a little base camp for the geology guys. While they're doing that, there's a bunch of normal-sized deer that are running around. Okay, nothing unusual yet.
Normal sized.
And then they're like, we are ready for the seismic charges. So then all these other choppers are flying around just dropping bombs. And there's this one pilot who's like drunk on the explosions. Like he's wearing these like mirrored sunglasses and you just see the explosion in his sunglasses and he's got this fucking smile on his face. So as the explosions are happening, Corey Hawkins is reading the readings and he's like, oh my God, John Goodman, you'll never believe it. But according to these readings, the bedrock is like mostly hollow. And John Goodman's like, yeah, good. That's what we want. And earlier, Hawkins was like, should we tell them what we're looking for? And he's like, no, man, totally no way. So this one guy with the mirrored sunglasses, he's like smiling at all the fire. And then all of a sudden in front of him, he just sees a fucking palm tree like flying at him. Like a fucking missile. Okay? And he goes, incoming! And it just goes right through the window and kills him. That chopper goes down. A couple of others, start going down. And Kong has attacked.
Yeah.
All right? We still don't get a good full view of him. We just see him we see him, but from inside the chopper. And he's apparently holding it in his hand, and he's like screaming, "Roar!" He's roaring. He's got his mouth open, and there's this dude hanging out of the chopper right above his mouth. Oh my God! Oh my God! And you're like, Kong's going to eat that asshole. And the guy's like holding on for dear life. And then, he falls. And just before he goes into Kong's mouth, we cut away to some dude eating a sandwich. Real close up.
All right.
So then the rest of the choppers, they see what's going on. They're farther away. So, and that's when we get that beauty shot of Kong in the light of the rising sun, far away. And they're like, is that a monkey? And then he starts fighting all of them. And they are all firing at him and everything, and it's going crazy. And he's just knocking them, swatting them out of the air.
Damn.
At one point, he tries to grab one of them by the tail rotor, which continues spinning in his hand, and it hurts him. So he throws it away. And he looks at his palm. Okay? And Kong looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, he looks all nice and rough. Way cooler than I think than the Peter Jackson one. He doesn't... The Peter Jackson Kong was like a beautiful gorilla with a scar over his eye. This Kong, his hair is all matted and gross looking.
Yeah.
He's dirty. Okay?
He's not a gentleman.
Right. So he's throwing everybody around. People are dying. Somebody lands to go and rescue a couple of guys, and Kong is just running at them. He's huge, man. Over at the geology base camp, there's Loki and Captain Marvel and then the kid, and they all hide behind their geology equipment. Kong is running through there, and then they all decide, you know what? This probably isn't the best idea. Let's run to the side. And then this one guy's too scared to go, and then Kong just reaches down and just rakes the earth where they are with his hand, and all the equipment, and that one dude just gets caught up in it, and he just gets thrown 5 miles away.
Yeah, wow.
He's fucking stepping on dudes, Samuel L. Jackson's chopper goes down, and he's upside down in his seatbelt and has to cut himself out. So then he's got a buddy in there, and he thinks about saving him. Oh, maybe I better get out. He gets out. Then the guy's like, oh, God, yeah, come on, help me. And he is just about to get into the chopper to help him when Kong just picks it up and throws it. Kong jumps up and grabs the Chinook and then swings it around like a freaking shot put and then just flings it. So it goes over and blows up somewhere. It's all just destruction and fire.
Yeah.
So everything's burning, and then Samuel L. Jackson, everybody is running around for their lives, and Samuel L. Jackson is just standing there in the middle of the fire, just staring at Kong. And Kong is all beating his chest and roaring and stuff, and then he turns around and makes eye contact with Samuel L. Jackson. And now they hate each other. Samuel L. Jackson's just fucking staring at him for a long time. And then Kong roars at him, and then he leaves. Loki's giving orders we got to get to this part of the island for the exit window and everything, and, making his plan. Chapman and Samuel Jackson are talking on the radio. Chapman he was the Chinook guy, and he's got all of the bombs in his downed aircraft. They can't really hear each other. So anyway, the group is split up into 4 different groups, and they all need to find each other, basically. So in the aftermath, Shea Wiggum just pulls out a can and then opens it up, and it's beans. And he's sitting on top of a burning helicopter, and he's just eating. And this guy's like, man, come on. What are you doing, man? How can you even have an appetite, right now? And he's like, whoa, I don't know. Eating's for the living. He's like, isn't that some fucked up shit that just happened? I mean, how come you're not freaking out? And he's like, well, it was an unconventional encounter. Yeah, it definitely was. But, there's no tactical precedent. I'd say we all did the best we could in the situation. No one's ever had to fight this guy, something like this before. So then Samuel L. Jackson is walking up to John Goodman, and he's like, hey, man, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm okay. Yeah, that's good, because I was wondering. I was hoping you were okay. And then he pulls his gun out and points it at him. And he's like, you knew that thing was here, didn't you? And that's what you were doing dropping bombs. You were trying to flush that shit out. Now tell me what you know. And then John Goodman just goes, monsters exist. And it turns out that John Goodman was in the Navy when he was young, and his ship was destroyed by some sort of kaiju monster, and he was the last survivor of it. And he's like, no one would believe me.
Yeah.
So I have spent my life trying to find them. So now I work for Monarch, and that's what we do. We find giant monsters, basically.
Do we know what attacked his ship?
No.
Oh.
We see a photo of the ship, and it just looks like claw marks.
Oh.
Big ones. So he's like, well, there's one here. And he's like, yeah, get us home, Colonel, with proof, okay? And then we can send the cavalry. And Samuel L. Jackson goes, I am the cavalry. He's like a big, tough badass in this movie. So Corey is talking about all the hollow spaces underground, and that's like his, college thesis on that kind of crap. And then they're all talking and walking and stuff. And then all of a sudden, this giant fucking water buffalo comes up out of the water and like is walking towards them, but like real slow. Like they thought it was like a hill in the water.
Yeah.
So it just walks up to them and stops. And they're all like in terror and awe. And then it just like, whatever, and then turns around and goes away. So Samuel L. Jackson wants to get to Chapman and all of the munitions because he wants to kill Kong. Because now it's like a new obsession he can have.
Yeah.
And all of his men are dead. He's got this big jangling group of dog tags in his hand. So they're all walking through this bamboo forest. So they're all talking, and then all of a sudden you just hear this one guy just go like, and everyone turns around. Everybody turns around to look at him, and he is just impaled on a freaking bamboo tree that is going down into his mouth and then out his ass. And the tree goes up into the forest. So it's like, how the hell did he get on there? And it turns out they are underneath a giant daddy long legs. And it was the leg that went down through his mouth and out his ass.
Geez.
So then it starts trying to kill all of them. They're all shooting and everything, and it's like dropping its weird rope tongue down and trying to grab onto people and then suck them up into the trees and everything. Everybody is freaking out, and then somebody's like, that's it. Cut them off at the legs. Because there is no difference between the bamboo trees and the daddy long legs.
Yeah.
So they all just pull out their machetes and they just start cutting all the trees all around them. And most of them are just trees, but then every once in a while, one will be a leg and it'll start squirting blood.
Yeah.
So they end up saving the kid, and they cut all the legs, and then the thing falls, and Samuel L. Jackson just walks up to it, puts his foot on its head, and then just empties a clip into him. He turns around, and everybody is all shaken up, and it was totally the game over moment from Aliens. Like everybody was all shook up and pretty much feeling fucked. So Samuel L. Jackson turns around. I hate having to say his whole name. I'm just going to call him Sam.
Sam.
From here on out. So then Sam turns around and goes, all right, guys, shake it off. Let's move out. So then we cut to Loki and his group, and they find a man-made wall. And they're like, whoa. Okay, and they're all like looking around, and he goes through a hole in the wall, and there's like ruins behind it. And it's all super spooky, and there's all these weird like paintings on it that look like digital. I don't know how to describe it.
Uh-huh.
Then it turns out that a whole bunch of tribesmen are painted up the same way and are camouflaged just standing against the walls. So they come out with all their spears. Everybody points guns at them. Everybody's like, guns, guns, guns. And then you just hear, whoa, hang on a minute. And then out comes John C. Reilly. And he's wearing his flight suit with his flight jacket. And he's got a great big bushy beard. And he's like, whoa, you guys, okay, hang on. Yeah. It's okay. And he's talking to him. He's like, hi, it's really great to meet you guys. I've been here since 1944. I've been here for 28 years. And he tells him his story real quick. He got shot down and he had a best friend named so-and-so, which was the Japanese pilot who just recently died.
Oh.
And he looks at Captain Marvel and he's like, you are more beautiful than a hot dog and a beer at Wrigley Field on opening day. And she's just like, thanks. He's like, all right, well, you know what? I'll explain everything, what's going on, but we got to go. Come on, we don't want to be around here at night. Then we get a scene of Chapman, who is by himself. He has nobody with him, and he's like in the river washing up because he's covered in blood and soot. And then he hears some big footsteps, and he turns around, and Kong is coming down the river. Chapman's all by himself. He's like, oh, shit. He runs and hides, and then he just watches Kong, who is looking at his bloody palm, and then all of this blood on his arm that he got cut up on one of the helicopters, and he bends down and he starts like washing his wounds.
Yeah.
And then he like takes a big old handful of water and drinks it. And it's like falling between his fingers, and it's like full force waterfalls, like how much water he's holding and how high it is, you know. And then he like stops and he's looking down, and then Chapman's like, oh shit, man. He sees me, and he starts walking towards Chapman, and then he reaches his hand down like he's going to grab him, and then just plunges it into the water right in front of him, and then pulls out a giant tentacle, and then gets into a fight with a giant octopus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was like that he saw sneaking up on him, apparently.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah,
he
man.
reached a whole different level.
Yeah, so he fights it, all right? And, all of these tentacles are coming up and getting all over him, and he has to, like, pull it out of the water and then kind of stomp its head, all right? And it squishes, and a bunch of ink comes out, and then he's still got all these tentacles all over him, so he's, like, ripping them in half, and then he just takes the 2 tentacles that he has in his hand that he ripped off and just shoves them into his mouth, okay? and he's chewing them, but they are still, like, on his face and moving a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's just like chewing them and slurping them in and chewing them and slurping them in. And it was like when that guy ate the octopus in Old Boy.
Yeah.
And then he just turns around and walks away. And then he stops, comes back, grabs more tentacles, and then drags the entire octopus back upriver. Like he's taking it home for later.
Yeah.
So then John C. Reilly and the gang, they get to the tribal settlement, which is behind, more walls that they built. And they're like, wow, yeah, you're trying to protect against that giant ape? And they're like, no. He's not the one they want to keep out. Like, there's other shit here.
Yeah.
So they're walking into the settlement, and all of these tribes people, they're just like totally blank-faced and staring at them, and no one talks. He's like, yeah, they don't talk. I don't know how they do it, but it's no one ever says anything. And he's like, they don't have any personal property. They live in total peace and harmony here. And then the 2 elders walk up to him like, you've brought strangers in. That's the look on their face, right? And then he just stands there and looks them in the eyes for like 10 to 15 seconds. And then they all nod at each other. And then he turns around and he's like, they say you can stay here. So like they all just communicate with their eyes. So they're walking and he's like, yeah, hey, so what happened, guys? Did we win the war? And they're like, well, which one? And then he just goes, huh, well, that makes sense. Then he takes them into their like their holy place where they have drawings of everything that's important to them. Like that's where we learn about Kong. He's like, yeah, so it turns out that all of these things on this island that they were afraid of, all of a sudden started protecting them from other things on this island. So these giant gorillas became the protectors of this tribe. And he shows on the wall, there's all these cave paintings. He's like, well, nothing lasts forever. See, that's Kong's parents right there. And it's just 2 dead gorillas laying on the ground. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, then that right there, that's Kong, okay? That's the last savior of this tribe, the last protector. And you don't just come in dropping bombs in somebody's house unless you're ready to pick a fight. So that's why he attacked you, okay? And the lady's like, well, didn't Kong kill your friend? And he's like, no, he didn't. They did. And he points over at this drawing, and they're all like, wow, whoa, what is that? It's like, yeah, those are the bad things on this island, okay? They're awful, man. Well, what are they called? I call them skull crawlers. And they're like, oh, okay, all right. And then this guy's like, well, why do you call them that? I don't know. All right, I just made that up just now. I've never actually said that out loud, and it sounds pretty stupid now that I'm saying it. And Captain Marvel goes, well, you know what? I'm cool with it. Like, I'm okay with calling him that. Are you, Loki? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. So he tells him that Kong can totally kill the skull crawlers unless they get too big. Like, if he catches them while they're young, he can kill them. But there's like a couple of big ones on the island that, especially one of them, that's the one that killed Kong's parents. And he says, now, I mean, Kong, you know, he is the last one on the island, but he's still growing, okay? Mm-hmm. So those bombs, they're waking these things up. And I don't know if Kong's going to be able to take the big one, because these skull crawlers live underground, and that's why they saw that the ground was hollow, because that's where they all live. So then Loki's like, okay, well, we need to get to the other side of the island in 3 days. And then John C. Reilly just starts laughing, and he's like, no way, man. That is not possible at all. And then he stops, and he's like, unless we don't go on foot. Then it cuts away to Sam, and he's like looking through his scope, and he sees this really ugly fucking bird, and he's like, man, you a ugly-ass bird. And then he shoots it. But the shot wakes up the rest of the flock of that bird, which is all in this dead tree, which before he shot it looked like a living tree. So then they all fly away, and they're flying at him, and it's all crazy looking. And then some other guy's like, dear Billy, I am in hell. So then we cut back to John C. Reilly, and we find out what he was talking about. He and his Japanese friend spent 6 years tearing apart their planes and building a boat.
Okay.
So there's like a machine gun on the front of it, and it's got like that shark mouth that they had painted on the planes.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, you know, I probably just need a little bit of help getting it working. And Loki's like, all right, let's get to work. And then Sam's crew finds Kong's bloody handprint on the side of a mountain. And Sam is like, you see that? He's bleeding. All right, we did that. All right, we can kill him. Yeah, we're going to go and get all those bombs, and we're going to set up a trap for him. We're going to kill this fucker.
Oh, jeez.
So then Chapman is in some forest, and he sits down on some dead tree that's laying on the ground. And he had hung all of his stuff up on another tree, and he's trying to use the radio, and it's still not working. And then all of a sudden, the dead tree that he is sitting on comes to life. And it like gets up, and it's a giant living twig. You know those bugs that look like little twigs?
Yeah.
It's that.
Okay.
And he starts shooting at it, and it's like all like roaring at him, and then it starts backing away, and then he realizes, oh, it's nice. And I'm like trying to kill it. And you can see that he really feels bad. And then he turns around and gets eaten by a skull crawler. And then outside, Loki and Mason, she's trying to take a picture of the northern lights that happens over the island at night. And this is just them like connecting, these two characters are supposed to, I guess, kind of fall in love a little bit. Mm-hmm. So then it cuts to John Goodman, and he's talking to Sam, and he's like, listen, man, go in for the bombs. All right, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm all good with you finding your buddy, but I really don't think you should kill the monkey, And he's like, you don't like how I'm running things? You know where the door is. And he kind of starts tipping his hand that he might be a little crazy obsessed.
Yeah.
So now John C. Reilly and his group are about to leave the village in the boat, and he's like standing over the grave of his friend. He's like, this guy, his name was so-and-so, and he was my best friend. Okay, and, I always promised him that we promised each other we'd never leave each other. All right? So, all right, I guess that's it. I guess let's go. And it was like really sad.
Yeah.
And then he pulls the guy's katana out of his grave, which was just jammed down into it. Mm-hmm. And he takes it for himself. And then he gets on the boat and they leave. And as they're getting on the boat, the whole village has come out to like say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
But none of them are talking or even smiling or crying. And he's just like, oh, okay, well, thank you. Thank you for everything. Yeah, they've been like taking care of him for 28 years.
Yeah.
And he's just like, if you guys are ever in, Chicago, look me up. Now they're heading down the river. And then John C. Reilly is like, yeah, I had a wife. And they're like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I talked to her like the day before I got shot down, and she told me that she just gave birth to our son.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, shit. And Loki's like, damn, dude, that sucks. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm still married or not. So there's a grown man out there that's my son. It's my greatest wish, though, that, maybe I could just see him once,
Yeah.
And then some kid soldier up on top of the boat is like, yeah, she probably moved on, man. And just totally kills the moment. And Loki, goes, hey, come on, man. So then over the radio, they get Sam talking to him. And so now they're in contact. They have to shoot a flare and then rendezvous with him. So now Loki's group is with Sam's group. All one big group. Now they're all going to find Chapman, who we know is already eaten.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam is like, all right, we got to head west. That's where he was, so that's what we're going to do. And John C. Reilly's like, no, man, no fucking way. That's Skullcrawler territory. And they're like, well, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I've only been here 28 years. What do I know? And then Loki is like, okay, we'll go there, all right? But if we don't see him, we're not sending out a search party. We're coming back here by nightfall because we have got to get to the other side of the island to be extracted. And John C. Reilly's looking at all of Sam's men, and he's like, yeah, all right, you're a good group of boys here. You're some good guys. A good group of boys to die with. We're all going to die on this island together. Really, you shouldn't have come here. And they're all just fucking staring at him. So now he's guided them to Kong's parents' grave, and it's just these two giant skeletons in the desert. And they have to cross it. And it's all hot because there's these vents that are venting gas from underground. And this one guy lights up a cigarette. I think it was Shea Wiggum. Somebody tells him to put it out, and then he just throws it, and it lights one of the vents off. So there's this big explosion of fire, and everybody's all scared because they thought a Skullcrawler was going to come out. Nothing happens, though. And then it comes out. Everybody's hiding from it. It doesn't know they're there yet, and it comes out and just starts puking. And you're like, what the hell is it doing? And it pukes up bones.
Oh.
Pukes up a skull that very conveniently still has the dog tags attached to it, and it's Chapman.
Oh.
Goodman wanted to take a picture of it, and he was trying to screw around with the camera, messed it up somehow, and made it so that the flash goes off every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it just starts flashing and everything, and the Skullcrawler, sees him and starts attacking. And then John Goodman gets eaten.
Really?
Yeah. Just like Gennaro in Jurassic Park.
Shit.
He gets swallowed, and I guess the skin of the Skullcrawler is kind of transparent because you can keep seeing the flash inside of it. And then it runs off into the fog. Everything's foggy around them, and you can just see the flash in different positions around them, like it's circling them.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty creepy. And then John C. Reilly pulls out his buddy's katana and then holds it in a samurai stance, like he might know what he's doing. And then the camera gets really up close to his face, and then he just says something in Japanese. And they subtitle it, and it is Death Before Dishonor. And then the Skullcrawler comes charging out, and he jumps to the side and then slashes downward and cuts this big, huge slash into this monster's leg. Yeah. And he lives. He did it. Okay? And they're all screaming, and they're like, use the 50 cal. And they had set it up on a Triceratops skull, and there is no reason for that to be there. The only dinosaur thing we've seen in this whole movie. Yeah. Everything else is just giant, regular animals.
Yeah.
Some kid goes down, and they're all trying to save him. Somebody had a bunch of canisters of this green tear gas or whatever, and it goes off. So now there's green fog everywhere. Somebody's wearing a gas mask, and then Loki decides to have his hero moment. And he's running past John C. Reilly, and he goes, John, sword! John C. Reilly, tosses him the sword, and he catches it perfectly, and he puts on this gas mask, and then he runs through the fog. Now, those little weird, leathery, ugly birds that were flying around, now they're flying through. And they're starting to, like, pick people up and take them away. And he does this 300 moment where he's, like, running through it, slashing these birds down, and it's all just one continuous shot of him running through the battlefield, cutting things down. And it's all green. It was weird. I don't know.
Like dumb.
I don't want to say dumb. It was cool enough, but I was like, why? So then at the end, they're having a standoff with Sam. And he's like, no, man, we got to go get Chapman. And then Loki's like, yeah, sorry, man, and holds up the dog tags. And he's like, Kong didn't kill this guy, so you don't need to kill Kong. And then Sam holds up his big jangly group of dog tags. And he's like, well, he killed these guys, so I'm still killing them. John C. Reilly finds that out, and he's like, wait, no, man. You can't kill Kong. You know, everybody on this island is going to die if he dies. And then he actually draws his sword on Samuel L. Jackson. So then he gets 500 guns pointed at him, and then they all just kind of back away. And Sam was like, well, okay, so if all those things will take over the island, then we'll just kill all of them too. They end up kind of splitting up after that, because Sam is going after the explosives, and Loki and his crew, now they don't want any part of it. So they're just going to the extraction site. Sam and his crew ends up finding all the bombs, and he's like, all right, let's start setting it up. Set up a trap. Take that napalm out. We're gonna set something up good for this Kong. Okay? Then Loki and Captain Marvel, they want to get to high ground and look, so they leave John C. Reilly and then Corey Hawkins and then some other girl that's with them. They leave them alone. Like, stay here. We'll be back. So it's nighttime, and Loki and Captain Marvel are on the edge of some cliff, and they're looking off in the distance to try to see which way they need to go. And then out of the fog in front of them walks Kong. And he just approaches them right out of the mist. And so they're a little afraid. And then they hold hands. And Kong looks down at him. And I don't know if he was like looking at them holding hands. I was kind of trying to draw a parallel between them and his parents for Kong, maybe. Because I was like, doesn't Kong fall in love with the girl? Mm-hmm. You know? And then swat the guy aside? I don't know. It's kind of what happened in the Peter Jackson one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen here. He just gets up close to him, and he's kind of looking at him like, I don't trust you. And then Captain Marvel puts her hand out, and then he gets really close, and then she like pets his face, and he like lets her do it, and then backs away, and he's like, I'm still not sure about you guys, and then he walks away. And then all these explosions go off behind him, because it turns out that Sam and his group are right across the lake, setting up his traps. Mm-hmm. So they blow all this stuff up, just to get Kong's attention, and he goes over, and he sees him, and there he sees Samuel L. Jackson, and he's roaring, and he's beating his chest, and Sam just has this big obsessed look on his face. Loki ran back to John C. Reilly, and he's like, yeah, you kids, go get back on the boat, and if we're not back in time, you just go on without us. And they're like, well, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to save Kong. And then John C. Reilly's like, not without me, pal. So then Kong and the army, they're having their standoff, and then Kong just charges at him. As he is charging at him through the lake, Sam just throws the torch that he was holding, throws it out into the water in front of him, and then all of the water catches fire. Yeah. Because it's all got like napalm floating on it. Mm-hmm. He fucking kills Kong.
Really?
Just enveloped in flames, and he goes down. And it's like, oh my God, it was big and dramatic looking. But then he comes out of the fire. And he's killing guys and stuff, and kills a couple of them, but then he falls. And he's like, falls down smoldering and smoking, like he's definitely probably gonna die now.
Yeah.
So he's just laying there, and then Sam is like, all right, men, place your charges, because we are gonna blow this fucking monkey to pieces. Everybody's got like little bombs, and they're like setting them all around him. And he's holding the big detonator. And then Loki shows up, and he's like, come on, man, you can't kill him. He's like, nope, fuck you. Everybody's pointing their guns at Loki and Captain Marvel and John C. Reilly. And then the kid that was on top of the boat, he's pointing his gun at John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly looks at him and goes, "You know it's the wrong thing to do, son." Then that kid, it works, and that kid like points his gun at Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like, "Stop what you're doing, sir." And then everybody's arguing. While that's happening, this big noise happens from out in the middle of the river, and then all this water starts draining into it, and then out comes this giant skull crawler. And then John C. Reilly goes, "Oh, you guys, that's the big one. Oh my God, run." And now Kong, he's like laying there, okay? Totally vulnerable to this thing. So this guy is charging at him, and then everybody has now run away except for Samuel L. Jackson. He's just standing there with a detonator in his hand. Remember, he's got like all these bombs around King Kong. So he's waiting for this thing to charge at him, and he's going to blow it up when it gets to him. So now they're all going to die together.
Yeah.
As he's running at him, he's like got his finger on the button, and he goes, "Die, motherfucker," and then gets crushed beneath Kong's fist. Just before he hit the button. And then Kong gets up and fights the big skull crawler.
Okay.
Corey Hawkins and his little girlfriend, they're like, "Well, it's dawn, now it's light out." And he's like, he told us to leave at dawn, right? Yeah, okay, let's go. So everybody's running away from this Kong and Skullcrawler battle that's happening, and it's a big one, okay? Like Clash of the Titans type fight. They're all running away from it. The Skullcrawler keeps because Kong he's kind of weak, from getting blown up and burned. So the Skullcrawler will every once in a while like swat him to the side, and it'll take a little while for him to get up. And then at that point, the Skullcrawler will chase the humans. While that's happening, Shea Wiggum, who has all of these belts of grenades on him, pulls two of them out and pulls the pins. The kid who's always talking to him is like, "Man, what are you doing, man?" He's like, "Go live your life, guys. I got this." And Skullcrawler's running at him with his mouth open. So he's got these two grenades in the air, and he throws the spoons. So now they're armed, right? And he's like, "Come on, baby. Come on, come on." And the Skullcrawler runs right up to him, then turns around and swats him with his tail. And he flies like 5 miles away up against this side of this mountain. And then that entire mountain just blows to smithereens. Like, he had so much explosives on him, he absolutely would have killed this monster had he been eaten by it. Kong shows back up and starts fighting it. It's more awesomeness, these big animals. Turns out there's also like a big pile of old, derelict, sunken ships or shipwrecked ships that are all just like laying there, all rusty. The Skullcrawler throws Kong into it, and then he tries to get up, but now Kong is caught in all of the anchor chains. So he's like all, pinned down by him, and he's like tangled himself up in them, and he cannot get up. So you're like, oh, all right, well, it'd be a perfect time to kill you. Then the Skullcrawler, he charges the people, and all of a sudden starts getting shot at by Corey Hawkins on the boat with the machine gun. They came to save everybody instead of just going to the LZ.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel's got a flare gun. She's firing them up into the air. I don't really know why. And then Kong finally gets up, and he gets himself untangled, but he still has one of them on him. So he pulls it out, and he like wrenches it free from the group of boats, but coming with it is one of the ship's propellers. So he's got this big long chain with this blade on the end of it that he's like swinging around.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And then he throws it right into that Skullcrawler, and it like sticks into his back. So now he can like drag it around. It was a pretty badass sequence there with the chain and the propeller.
Yeah.
Now Captain Marvel, she fires a flare right into the side of the Skullcrawler's face. And it sticks in him, and it's burning, and it's like all, "Oh, shit!" But you can tell that it hurts it. It like starts freaking out a little bit. Kong uses that opportunity to grab him by the tail and then swing him around like a shot put and then throw him against some mountain, which happens to be the mountain that Captain Marvel is standing on top of. So she flies and falls down, and she's going to die, and she falls into the water. Mm-hmm. Both Kong and Loki look back at her like, "Oh, shit." Kong runs over, because the Skullcrawler died or whatever, and he runs over and then reaches his hand down into the water and picks her up. she's just laying there in the middle of his palm. And it's really sad because, like, oh, she's dead. Is she not dead? I don't know. And then the skull crawler fucking attacks Kong again.
Yeah.
Now he has to fight it with this girl in his clenched fist. And he is punching it with that hand. And it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? I don't remember what hand he used, but at one point he ends up reaching into the skullcrawler's mouth and grabbing its tongue. And then, Chris, he pulls its tongue all the way out of its body and pulls out its stomach with it.
Oh, wow.
It was cool, man. He, like, ripped his guts out by his tongue. And the thing just collapses.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Reminded me of the shunting. Has anybody looked that up yet? Anyway, the skullcrawler's dead. He laid Captain Marvel down on the beach. Loki ran up to her and then kind of slapped her in the face, and she woke up. She's fine. Coughing up a little water. And then Kong is just like standing there. And he's looking him up and down, and he's like, all right, I guess you guys are okay. And they're all like, thanks, Kong. And he's like, all right, I'll see ya. And he just turns around and walks.
Yeah.
He's going home. It's fine. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they start playing this song where it's all like, we'll meet again. Some old 40s music. Sound like the kind of thing Rick would love. Like Fallout sounding stuff.
Ooh.
So they're on the boat and they're going back to the extraction zone, and Captain Marvel's like taking pictures of John C. Reilly, like looking off in the distance, getting excited about going home. Then all the choppers start flying in from the storm to come and get him, and Kong like turns around and sees him, and he starts beating his chest and he roars. And then the camera goes into his eye, and then it's the credits. Okay, but immediately we get this old-timey film footage of John C. Reilly going to find his family. And this just happens against the song. You don't actually hear anything that's happening. But he, like, knocks on a door, okay? And he's, like, shaving. And then some like, young guy opens the door. And he's like, waving at him. And the guy's like, I don't know, whatever. He looks all confused. And then John C. Reilly's wife walks out and sees him. And we learned that she did not move on. She waited. And she starts crying, he starts crying, and they're going to be together again. They're going to be a family.
Oh.
It was really nice and happy. And then we see, like, John C. Reilly, like, sitting on his couch, his new couch, and he's got a hot dog and a beer in his hand, and he is watching baseball on TV in color.
Wow.
And then the actual credits roll. So, as you know, there was a stinger. We had to wait until after all the credits. So the credits finish. All these assholes up behind me in the theater, they're still making noise. They kind of dies down once you hear, the screen is black, but you hear Loki go, "You just gonna sit there? Huh? You're just gonna sit there in the dark? Are you enjoying this? You?" And then it shows him, and he's talking to his own reflection. And you're like, what the fuck? And then it pans back. And he and Captain Marvel are in an interrogation room, and he's yelling at whoever's behind the one-way mirror.
Yeah.
So now they're detained. And then in the room walks Corey Hawkins and then his little girlfriend. And they're like, yeah, hey guys, what's going on? Yeah, okay, we get it, man. There's no island. We never saw any island. We get it. We won't tell anybody about what happened. And then Corey's like, oh, no, it's cool, man. There's actually other islands. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, welcome to Monarch. And he starts showing them all this stuff. And it's all these cave paintings that they have found over the years. And they are cave paintings of, at this point we hear Corey Hawkins go, Kong's not the only king. And then the first cave painting we see is Godzilla. And then we see another one that is Rodan, like the big pterodactyl thing. And then another one is Mothra. And then the last one is King Ghidorah, the big three-headed dragon.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, there's more. And then there's another cave painting of like Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah. I don't know. And then we just hear a big Godzilla roar, and then it ends. So there you have it. Now, Heather had no idea that they were building a shared universe between Kong and Godzilla.
Yeah.
So she was very excited. She's now sitting there like
Yeah.
smiling ear to ear.
Seems cool.
Yeah. I was happy to be able to be there for her first finding that out. So that's also why Kong, he's pretty big in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not big enough for fighting Godzilla. But that's why it took place in Vietnam time. Needs a good 40 or 50 years to grow a little bigger so that he can just get fucking melted by Godzilla's fire breath.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to work that. There was an old school Japanese Godzilla vs. King Kong movie. Did you guys even know about that? It's already been done.
No.
Now, in that movie, King Kong had lightning power.
Oh.
And that was how he could compete with Godzilla. I really hope they don't do that.
I don't know. Eventually they're going to team up.
Yeah. They're going to have to fight King Ghidorah together, I'm sure. So anyway, there you have it. Kong, Skull Island on Movies with Ron.
Good job, man.
All
Thanks.
right.
What do you think, Rick?
Thought it was pretty good. Think I need to go see it.
Everybody needs to go see it. Thanks for listening, people of Earth.
Don't forget to look us up. Also, leave a rating and review. We want to hear from you. All right. It's been fun.
Love ya.
Take care.
Movies with Ron.